quick. I wanted to show you what I was working on. The Ruckus is turning out awesome. I'm almost done with it, and I'm really excited. So yeah, just been doing, you know, bike life, you know, out riding. Got to keep the face covered, keep the po-po off my back. Been having a good time though. Out riding the 400, tearing up the streets. Good times. But I need to get my Ruckus fixed so I can take that out, drive, and not have to worry about the po-po pulling me over, taking me to jail, stealing my four-wheeler. Look at this. Oh yeah, you working on the Ruckus? Looks nice, man. I like it. I like it. Did you do the reggae style wiring harness? I heard that's pretty cool, man. Been thinking about doing the reggae one on mine. Just went with black. I really like how it matches the black and purple and chrome color scheme I went with. They do offer a lot of different colors. Did you make your own? Or who'd you say you got that from? Oh no, I got this one from Dorbyworks. Liz Rux makes them. Oh yeah, I've heard of her. This one's pretty easy. It's pretty much plug and play. You just get all your connectors matched up and plug everything together. I'll show you how I did it. Hey man, yeah, I really like it. I like the color scheme. The black, the purple, the chrome. Yeah man, it looks really good. This looks like it took you a lot of time. Who'd you say you got that wiring harness from? I think I need that reggae one for my bike, man. You know, match my dreads and stuff. This video is for entertainment purposes only with no sponsorships. Please remember to comment, subscribe, and like my video. It really helps me out. It takes you just a few seconds. Click that like button, hit the subscribe, and make sure to ring the bell so that you get notified of all the new videos. And if you like this, let me know. So we're going to start this video off by installing the battery cage. Hopefully you watched my disassemble video. If not, I'll put a link above. But one thing I like to do so that I don't lose bolts and I make sure that I know where everything goes back is I'll put them back into something once I take it apart. That way I know exactly which ones go. If not, I recommend using a bag and labeling each bag. Or, you know, sometimes you can just remember, but that's a risky bet. So we're screwing the battery box support on now. Once we got it put on there, we're going to go back and tighten everything up. You, of course, want to use Loctite. I went with blue Loctite for pretty much everything on this bike that has threads. Now we're installing the ignition. This is the one that you saw me replace when it was just a 50cc. We're going back with the same new ignition that I put on the 50cc bike. We took it off for this build to get painted, and now we've got it put back on. Alright, let's lift off some of these things that we had just sitting as mock-up so that we knew what it was going to look like, and let's unbox the wiring. Now that we've got everything out of the big box, let's open up this speedometer. This is the Koso DL03SR GP style multifunction gauge. It's got a built-in tachometer, a fuel gauge, a voltmeter, turn signal indicators. It's got adjustable backlight and large digits, so it's really easy to read. It's also got a clock, and it'll tell you how many more miles you have until you run out of gas. Lots of good information in the manual. I like manuals. I try to read everything before I put everything together. So take the time, look over the manual, make sure you understand what functions are there before you go out for your first ride. It's easy to set up, and the kit comes with instructions on how to make the adjustments on it and get all the settings correct. So just make sure you read through and follow it, and you'll get it. I used the included mount that came with it and was able to adapt it to my handlebars, and it came out pretty slick, I think. We're going to mount it by removing the factory bolt that was in the handlebars. Once we've got that removed, we're going to feed it through, and it'll hold the speedometer cluster onto the handlebars. You want to use blue Loctite on this bolt so that way you don't have it vibrating loose. There's rubber shock mounts on the mounting plate itself, and that'll keep the speedometer from bouncing around while you're riding. Just sort of push them through. They're a little snug to get through those rubber grommets, but once it's through, it'll fit on there and then you have to go back and put the nuts on the back side so that way it doesn't pop off. They stuffed lots of goodies down in the wiring bag. There's some stickers, air freshener, and even a key tag. Nice. Alright, so now we're going to wire up and install the front turn signals. These are really cool. They're switchbacks, so when the lights are on, they're bright LED white, and then when you do your turn signals, they flip to the amber yellow color, and they're directional, so they sort of go from one side to the other. As with anything custom, this is where I had to make a slight modification to the standard wiring harness. I pulled out what is used on their wiring harness as a flashing brake light, and I pulled off of the black wire, which is keyed power, and ran keyed power up so that I had constant power for the lights, and then whenever the turn signals are activated, they bypass that key power and make the turn signals activate. It's relatively easy. I know that might sound difficult, but all it is pulling out the brown wire and replacing it with a feed from the black out of the wiring harness. It was really easy. I just took my time and did it. If you want more information on how I did that, just hit me up in the comments below, and I'll be happy to give you more explanation onto that, but I don't want to bore everybody that doesn't care. These LED turn signals came from Amazon. They weren't real expensive, but they are really bright and they work really, really well. These brackets that I'm using are originally made for mounting a bar style light on your triple tree, but before I had them powder coated, I drilled them out to match the bolt pattern that was on these LED lights, and then had them powder coated so that I wouldn't mess up the powder coat afterwards. So I went ahead and measured and drilled before I had the brackets powder coated, and those brackets came from the THERUCKSHOP. They were pretty expensive for what they are. If I could have made them myself, I definitely would have, but for the sake of time and convenience, I just went ahead and bought those from the THERUCKSHOP. Like I said, they're originally meant for mounting the THERUCKSHOP or some other style bar 9-inch light or 7-inch light to the front of the triple tree, but for what I wanted, I was mounting my turn signals to them, and I think it turns out really well. One of the really cool features of this wiring kit is it comes with a backing plate. This backing plate mounts in the factory location of your old ECU and allows you to mount your regulator, turn signal, flasher, horn, whatever else you feel like mounting over there. I'll give you a picture here in a minute of what all I mounted to it, but it looks really, really cool. It definitely gives it that professional appearance and factory look. I'm really happy with it, and it was one of the features that sort of sold me on this wiring kit, and I think it's good justification for the price. A lot of people say this wiring harness is really expensive, but for everything that you get, I think it's worth it. I could have bought any wiring harness from any manufacturer, and after looking at all of them, this was the one that I felt gave you the most for your money. The harness itself is very, very well made. Everything comes with high quality wire. It's got a really nice loom on it that'll help protect your wires, keep everything nice and organized and neat. There's no electrical tape wrapping stuff together that melts and gets gooey in the sun. And everything's labeled. It comes with all the connectors on the ends, and it comes with extra pins so that you can repin any device that you need to, and it's definitely worth it. It's nice and robust, and in my opinion, it was what I wanted to go with for my build. A lot of people overlook important things like wiring because they figure wire's wire and anything's going to work. My background is in electrical engineering, so things like wire are really important to me. Gauge, size, flexibility, wire type, strand count, all that stuff matters when you're wiring up an electrical system. So now you're going to see me start to push the wire through the hole that I drilled in the neck of the front frame. This is so that we can do the wire tuck, and you won't see wires going down the neck of the motorcycle and under the gas tank. We're going to tie everything in and make it look nice and slick, so that way you see a minimum amount of wires and everything looks factory fresh, like it was always meant to be there. We're tucking everything in there, and then I have a plate that'll go over the neck and hide all the wires. You'll see me sort of move the wires around, sort of getting an idea of where I want everything to land and how much slack and how much wire I have to work with. Pardon staring at my back here for a minute, but it was this side of the motorcycle I had to work on. So, all right, now we're going to lay the motorcycle over on its side, or we're going to lay the Honda Ruckus over on its side so I can start to feed the wires up through the frame. So if you've seen my video on drilling holes in the frame, in the rear subframe, if not, I'll put a link above. Go check that out. I drilled all these holes prior to having the bike powder coated in there so that I can tuck all these wires and keep that nice, clean factory look. It does take a little bit of time. The wire's in that loom, and there's got connectors on the end of it. If my holes were just a little bit bigger, they probably would have went through a whole lot easier, but I was unsure in exactly how big to make the holes, and I didn't want to weaken the frame. So everything does end up fitting through. Just do a little trick where I'm going to wrap some electrical tape around the ends of this and give myself a pigtail. This is just temporary for feeding the wire through. As soon as I get the wire fed through, I'm going to remove that electrical tape. Dorbyworks does offer a harness that is split in the middle that you can special request. I didn't realize that when I first ordered my kit, and they don't always recommend it for everybody, but if you have experience with wiring, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to do it. Alright, now you'll see me start to fish the rest of that wire up and through the frame. I'm really happy with the way it's looking so far. And as I said, just a little bit of patience, and it did feed through, even with the small holes that I drilled in there. You do want the holes to be about 1 inch. That's about the minimum that you're going to want. 3/4, it might not fit, but 1 inch, everything fit. So that first set of wires you saw me shove through were what comes off of the starter relay and runs back to the electrical starter that's on the engine. And they're pretty thick wires, but they're pretty small in comparison to these connectors. So what you're going to see me do here is try to fit that connector through with that wire off of the relay, push through there, and realize that it won't fit. My hole is too small. So I'm going to undo the wires from the starter relay, and I'm going to go ahead and shove those back through the neck and out the other side. Here in a second, you'll see me bring them back. So I did this so that I had enough room to fit these connectors through, because now you see they easily fit through without that other wire in there. And the wire itself is really small. It's the connectors that are big. And if you're having difficulty like I was with the second one, go ahead and pop the other end of the connector out, and then you'll see it flows right through the hole without a problem. I quickly go ahead and put the connector back on the other side so that I don't misplace or lose or forget which ones go with which. Alright, now I'm ready to pull that through and get that out of my way. Get the last one. Alright, feed it through. Got plenty of wire to work with. Alright, now you're going to see me pull that one that goes to the starter back through the neck, and then I'm going to reconnect it back to the starter relay so that, again, I don't lose anything. Put my electrical boots on there so that everything stays nice and organized. The fact that everything has labels on it makes it really easy. It would be hard to forget what goes to where, but since this is my first time working with the Dorbyworks harness, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't lose anything and didn't misplace anything. Keeps me from asking too many questions after the fact. If they've already given me the information, it's good to keep it organized, and that way I don't mess anything up. Alright, so now you're going to see me start. Unfortunately, you can't see it very well, but I am mounting that acrylic plate to the neck. Alright, and here now you can see it. So that's what that plate looks like before I start mounting anything to it. And man, does it look good. I am so excited. Alright, there's the Speedo all mounted up, and that's what it looks like. And this was the custom plug I made for my headlights. And then that's also where I tied in for my constant power for my LED turn signals. The kit does come with some pictures and images that show you how to lay out that panel, but I like doing things my own way. You will notice that you see some stuff on there like the front wheel, the handlebars, and other things. I wanted to make this video all about electrical wiring. I'll go back in the next episode probably and show you how I did the wheels and the handlebars and the brakes and all of that stuff. But for right now, I want to keep this about electrical. So you saw me measuring on the back of the motorcycle there when I was back by the seat, and I was finding out exactly how much wire I needed for this tail light. So this is the man-in-the-box tail light. It comes with a metal bracket that mounts to the bottom side of your seat, and I had that taken apart and powder coated to match the illusion purple from Prismatic Powders. And then now I'm measuring everything out, and I cut my wires to the right length so I didn't have a bunch of excess wire hanging out underneath the seat that I had to deal with. Probably could have left these, and just tucked them up somewhere, but like I said, I like doing stuff my own way. So now you're going to see me test all these wires now that I have them all stripped off. Before I start putting connectors on them, I just want to validate that the light works, that there's no problems with it, so I don't spend time making connections and then the light not work. So I just want to test everything first. So I'm using a regular 12-volt battery and hooking things up one at a time so that I can see which wire is turn, which one's brake, which one's park, all that kind of stuff. This battery could be a little bit stronger. That's why those LEDs look a little dim. It needs to be thrown on the charger. All right, so now that I've tested everything and confirmed that the light does work, these included pins come in the kit. They give you plenty of pins. So if you mess one up, you can, take it off, start over with another fresh one. But luckily, I think I only messed up one of these in the whole process. But just take your time. They do make specific crimpers that do this. I didn't have those specific crimpers, so I made do with my nice electrical wire strippers, and everything turned out really good. I'll show you here in just a second of the final result. But again, I can't stress it enough. Take your time, be patient, look at what you're doing, and if you need to, come back and watch this video as many times as you like. There's plenty of tips, and I try to go step by step and explain what I'm doing. You can always hit me up in the comments below if you run into a problem. Or one of the things that I thought was super awesome is Liz is fantastic with tech support. She will help you answer any questions that you might have. Obviously, she can't do it for you. They will do it for you if you send your bike to them. But if you have questions, she's really good at answering questions, and they get back to you really quick. So I had some questions about pinout on the speedometer and things like that, and they were really quick to either send me a picture or give me an answer. So that's all the connectors. They turned out really good. They look almost as good as the ones she does. All right, so now that we've got everything crimped, I'm gonna slide some shrink wrap wire loom over this. In hindsight, I probably should have done that before I put the connectors on there, but I didn't want the rigid shrink wrap getting in my way, so I waited until after I put all the connectors on, because that way I had plenty of room to work with the wires, and it was able to fit through there without too much problem. So I slid everything through there, and then I'm going to trim off the excess, and then you'll watch me here in just a second. I'm going to use the heat gun, and I'll show you how to shrink wrap that to where it looks nice and factory. All right. So I am going to go ahead and disassemble this. So go ahead and take the LED off of there. And now we're going to use the heat gun and shrink it all up. Just take your time because you don't want to melt your wires. That heat gun gets really, really hot. If you have one of the nicer ones that has an adjustable setting, or you can even use a hair dryer, I just don't recommend using a lighter, because if you melt those wires in half, you're going to be cussing yourself. You'll have to splice them back together, and it just won't look as good. So just take your time. This is an old heat gun. It gets really hot. That's why I have it rigged in this way. That way I could do it hands-free and focus on the wire. All right, now that we've got our shrink wrap all done, we're going to reassemble the taillight. All right, so here I'm using my boost box that I use to jumpstart dead batteries and stuff like that. You can see how bright that LED is. It's super bright when it has the right amount of voltage going to it. So I'm just confirming all my wires are good, make sure I didn't short anything out, didn't melt anything, and I'm matching my pins up to the factory pin that's in the wiring harness from Dorbyworks. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you very much. Please share with your friends and fellow enthusiasts for ruckus and motorcycles, ATVs. This has been a really good project and I've really enjoyed it. Here's a picture of the mounting plate, and I've got my CDI, my horn, my flasher relay, and my rectifier.